Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the AskIoT video series. I'm Ryan Chacon, and on today's episode, you're going to learn what Matter means for markets outside of the smart home. With me today is going to be Sujata Neidig, the Director of Marketing for Wireless Connectivity at NXP, a leading company in secure connectivity solutions for embedded applications. If you're watching this on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hit that bell icon so you get the latest episodes as soon as they are out. All right, on to the episode. Welcome, Sujata. Thanks for taking time to chat with me today. Appreciate it.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Yeah. So before we jump into kind of our main topic today, I would love it if you could give a quick introduction about yourself to our audience. Talk about background experience as well as the company, kind of what you all do at NXP and kind of the role you play in the industry.
Sure. So I'm Sujata, and I work at NXP Semiconductors. So we're a company that builds solutions to make a smarter, more connected world, really innovating on technologies so that our customers can build devices that consumers and users can benefit from. And I've been at the company pretty much my entire career, starting off as an engineer and then moving into the business development and marketing role. And today I'm the director of wireless connectivity, so managing some of our multi-protocol product roadmaps for connectivity, and also our strategies around alliances and developing standards in collaboration with industry participants and leaders.
Fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you taking time. I know you've been traveling to some pretty exciting events recently. One in particular around the launch of Matter, which is actually our focus topic for today, is kind of talking to our audience a bit more about what Matter is and what it means for markets, especially outside of the smart home, which I think is where most people kind of connect it to. So what I
Yep.
wanted to do is let me quickly switch our view here to give a little bit more emphasis on you answering the questions. The first
Okay.
thing I wanted to do, just for our audiences, is information. Some of those who may be unfamiliar with what Matter is. How would you describe Matter, what it is, and the role it's kind of bringing or playing in the space?
So Matter is a new protocol for connecting devices together. And what it does is it enables devices to just work together. It's all about interoperability and having devices across brands and across ecosystems talk effectively to each other.
And as I mentioned a second ago, most people connect this to the smart home space. At least that's how they've been introduced to it. At a high level, what is the value that it's bringing? So you talked about interoperability, but talk about maybe why that's so important to an industry like the smart home industry, and kind of what problems it solves from things that may not have been, I guess, solvable before, and problems people or challenges people ran into when integrating smart home devices.
So we've heard the term smart home for quite a while now, and I think every year there's more and more products that are introduced into the market under that umbrella. When we look at adoption in the smart home itself, with consumers and how many smart home products they're not only buying but also using in their home, that has not grown as exponentially as we predicted. And some of the barriers, or one of the key barriers to that, is just frustration and confusion that consumers face, that it's not easy to decide which products to buy, and then
Right.
to understand how they fit into your existing products, and then how to control them. And so today, in today's world, a lot of it is tied to specific brands. So you might invest in one brand because then the devices will work together. But if you decide you like the way this light switch works from another brand, then you may not be able to get them to work. And you also might not be able to control them properly, because although voice assistants are very mainstream now, there's different ecosystem providers from Amazon, Apple, and Google, and SmartThings, and they don't all work with each other. So today's smart home can lead to frustration and confusion, and that's limiting the high growth. And that's what Matter was designed to address, is, instead of each of these ecosystems creating silos, if they can work together on a unified protocol so that all devices can speak the same language to each other, that will grow the market, and that provides more opportunities for everybody. consumers and product developers and ecosystems.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. So as a individual consumer who has different smart home products and has run into that same challenge where you're kind of, I don't say you're locked in, but you kind of feel locked into a certain potential brand of a product so that everything works together. It's probably easier to be more controlled by a single app, you name it. Do you feel, I mean, I think what the way you described it is very clear on the value it provides for consumers. Do you feel that the companies that are building these devices are going to also see that as a big benefit? Because you're basically, it sounds like people are now able to kind of deviate away from buying and sticking to one brand, where I think those organizations were hoping you would stick to, buy their smart camera, buy their smart doorbell, buy their smart this, that, and the other. But now you have that flexibility as a consumer, and it seems like it'll be a benefit for the industry as a whole. But how do you think the companies that kind of invested a lot of time hoping people would stay within their kind of ecosystem of products will are kind of viewing this? Are they viewing it as a positive from your perspective?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I would say that if we look at Matter, it is backed by all of the major brands. So
Okay.
Apple, Amazon, Google, SmartThings have all committed support and have made announcements with their products and their partner programs supporting Matter. And I think building connected devices and smart devices is not easy. It's very complex. And so for companies to fully invest in creating something just for their own products or their own developer program,
Right.
it's a high amount of resources to not only develop and deploy the technology, but to make sure that products are implementing them properly. And you have all these works with programs, and that is a lot of infrastructure that has
Sure.
cost associated with it. So I think from the industry perspective, there's two aspects. One is growing the market. If you grow the market and the number of products that are being deployed and adopted by consumers grows exponentially, that helps drive down costs and
Hmm.
opens up rooms for innovation. And then secondly, by collaborating as an industry to kind of spur that growth,
Right.
you're also being able to share resources and get pretty much the best minds across the industry working together and providing their different perspectives into developing and deploying the technology so that what is being deployed really does execute on addressing the problems in the market.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It makes a ton of sense. I think the buy-in for those major brands is going to carries a ton of weight in the the future success of Matter. Now, as we think outside of the smart home space, which is I think a place where our audience will get a ton of value and understanding, and as is the case that most of them work outside of the smart home industry, how do you see Matter impacting other industries outside of smart home?
So another great question. So Matter, of course, is focused on the smart home today. However, what Matter is a unified way for devices to talk to each other. So
Mm.
there are other industries where wireless connectivity and having wireless networks are just as important, and something that's more adjacent to the smart home that you could consider smart home, but it's a larger scale, is our multi-dwelling units. So apartment buildings, hospitals, I mean, not hospitals, hotels, where you have multiple residents and single family units in a large building. And so
Right.
while that brings another level of requirements with how do the facility managers control certain aspects of the environment and then allow the consumer or user or owner in the unit to control what's in their environment. So I think multi-dwelling units is somewhere you'll see Matter kind of progress naturally. But then if you
Hmm.
take it a step further into like building automation, so when you think
Sure.
about a smart home, it's about the climate, it's about the safety, security, sensors. Same thing as also applies in managing and automating a building.
Right.
And today in buildings, there's a lot of wired technologies, and we see a transition to wireless so that for new buildings, especially, and as buildings add more capabilities, and Matter is based on IP or the Internet Protocol, and in building automation, everything is already based on that backbone. And so I see Matter running on IP with Thread or with Wi-Fi or Ethernet be something that can be adapted into building automation. So schools, hospitals, work environments could leverage this. And, there's specific differences in those use cases because it's larger scale, like the
Sure.
installation, the maintenance are different. And so there could be areas that have to be addressed. So see some additions to what Matter can capabilities are, but I think that those are all different areas that Matter can really address looking forward beyond the smart home.
Do you feel like there are any particular use cases? I mean, you already talked about a few here, but let's say we expand outside of what you've already mentioned. Where do you feel, from a use case perspective, I guess I should rephrase that. What use cases do you think will lead the way to kind of move outside of the smart home? Where do you kind of, what does your kind of, I guess, gut kind of tell you on where this is going to play the biggest role going forward?
Well, first of all, I think it's that transition from wired to wireless. And I think Matter provides this opportunity to address one of the key requirements in a commercial building or building automation will be about reliability.
Sure.
In a large building, you can't have something fail and it cause the whole building's lights to go out, right? And so I think
Right.
Matter provides that robustness because it has support for wired with Ethernet, Wi-Fi, which is maybe not as robust, and then Thread. So first of all, I think Matter can provide that robustness. The second thing is that the range has to be much larger in a building than a home. And I think Matter also is already set up pretty well to support that because it does support different network transports, and
Hmm.
those transport options could be expanded in the future as long as it's something that's IP based.
Right.
Um, and then as far as use cases, I think control is something that I think will be really key in building automation. And
Sure.
Matter already supports some access control capabilities with smart door locks, but being able to expand that use case to scale with a larger building environment.
Hmm.
But again, I think a lot of these use cases are similar in what they deliver. It's the how to
Sure.
deploy it in the building that will be slightly different.
Yeah, it's very interesting to think about because I guess over the last, I'd say, 6 to 8 months, I've had a lot of conversations with people talking about smart spaces within buildings and what they can do to improve the not just the automation elements of it and the access to understanding what's happening in the building from an efficiency standpoint, but also the experience building residents, uh, workers within buildings are having within different kind of commercial buildings. And I feel like there's a very big opportunity for this to help really propel that forward as this has become more of a
Mhm.
priority for organizations to ensure that these kind of smart spaces are able to be more viable of an option.
And I think that in buildings, there's so many different aspects with the like fire and safety and then
Right.
lighting. And today they're siloed. They're all provided by different parts of the ecosystem. But the benefit is that if you have an IP infrastructure,
Hmm.
then even, there's cases in building automation or in a building. So you might need KNX or BACnet to do certain aspects of what's needed in the building, and then Matter for some other aspects. And
Right.
because you have an IP backbone infrastructure, you can converge and use all of those technologies and still see it all as a whole unit instead of different silos.
Right. Yeah, I think that's going to be key to helping increase adoption and usability um, for end users as well as just different use cases kind of gaining traction. I feel like one of the things that's always been talked about in the IoT space is once people start to deploy a solution, how can you expand that solution to solve other problems within an organization or for a potential user? And this seems like it's very well kind of baked into the idea that if once it's installed and you're utilizing it to solve one problem and or fit one use case, you have the ability to then expand into others more easily, have that visibility in a more unified way, and just creates an overall better experience, which is, I think, a big part of what will contribute to increased adoption across the board.
And I also want to say, Matter is an industry standard, right? And so there's an
Right.
organization that it's under, Connectivity Standards Alliance. What is really, I think, compelling about the how Matter is developed is it's a very market-driven process. So member companies define use cases, and those use
Right.
cases get flushed out across the membership, and then
Right.
they move into the implementation phase. And so companies or industries that see benefits that Matter can bring into their world can easily get involved in the efforts within the Matter working group, and
Right.
influence and share their experiences and knowledge and help define those use cases so that what Matter implements is able to really fulfill their requirements.
I totally agree. I mean, I think we've seen that success with other alliances around, the IoT space for many years. So this is something that,
Yeah.
having that group is going to contribute a lot to the success. Last question I have for you before I let you go here is, we've talked a lot
Yeah.
about use cases, we've talked a lot about Matter, all the kind of good stuff to help educate our audience. But where do you kind of see the future of Matter going? What should people be kind of expecting this to evolve into, and why people should be getting so excited about this?
So, I think when Matter was launched, it was launched as, here's the first version of Matter. It is not a one and done thing because it is supporting applications. So it's defining different applications, and there's a range of applications and what you can do with those and the use cases. So Matter has started a baseline set of device types that it supports. And
Okay.
as Matter expands, there will be more devices that are included. So, think about um, home appliances or energy management devices. These different types of categories can be covered under the same umbrella as Matter. And then Matter can also add more functionality and capabilities. How do you add devices to the network, with scanning a QR code? Maybe there's other ways. At NXP, we have NFC technology. So we've been working within the Matter working group to define that NFC that provides that contactless tap and touch user experience, how that can be leveraged by the Matter technology to deliver a more a nicer, more secure user experience. And then the other area I would say is security. So I think Matter has raised the bar on security to ensure more protection to users of devices, smart devices. And I think Matter will continue to evolve. And because security is also something that is a evolving field, there's always new ways of attacks that hackers come
Right.
up with, right? And Matter will continue to find ways to raise the level of security and protection.
Yep. No, absolutely. It's very exciting. Protocol is a very exciting kind of thing that's happening in the space. It's obviously been a long time coming from a conversation and kind of finally getting to launch standpoint. And I think our audience should really pay attention to this and kind of get excited about what's to come. And there's a lot of people behind it to support this, to make this even bigger and more successful than I think people have already kind of started to imagine it can be. So, but
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time. This has been a fantastic conversation. I really enjoy kind of getting your insights from not just being at the event, but everything that you all work on a regular basis is put you in a great spot to kind of educate our audience on what's going on when it comes to Matter and many other technologies. I know we've had conversations and we'll have many conversations to come
Yeah.
from you and your team. So thank you so much for
Okay.
taking the time. Really appreciate it. And where can our audience, I
Sure.
guess, follow up and ask follow-up questions, learn more, kind of just get a sense of what's going on at NXP and all that
Yeah.
kind of good stuff?
Yeah. So maybe I'll close with that. At NXP, we're very involved in Matter, plus all of the other technologies that Matter uses, like Thread and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, NFC. And we have a portfolio of Matter and platforms that we launched a couple of months ago to support all of the different range of use cases and device types. And so
Awesome.
from NXP's perspective, you can learn more about not just about Matter, but how to build Matter devices. And that includes how to do the compute, the security, and the connectivity at nxp.com/matter. You can also go to the Alliance itself, so csa-iot.org, and
Great.
click on the Matter subsection there to get more information about Matter.
Fantastic. Well, Sujata, thank you so much for taking the time. Our audience, I think, is going to get a ton of value out of this. This is, like I said, a hot topic that people have a lot of questions about. So you've done a fantastic job coming on here and kind of telling them kind of what they need to know about what's happening there. So really appreciate it, and obviously would love to have you back at some point to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
All right, everyone, thanks again for watching that episode of the Ask IoT video series. I hope you found a lot of value in it. If you did, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps others find it and make sure that you get the latest episodes as soon as they become available. Other than that, if you have any questions or topics that you would like us to cover in this series, please leave them in the comments or shoot us an email at hello@iotforall.com. Other than that, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.